On today's show, we take a look at the least and most efficient contracts on the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Starting to get the little inklings that we're slowly getting closer to some semblance of hockey coming back.
Yeah, I think I saw over the weekend a couple of free agents and RFAs kind of sign their deals. Riker Evans in Seattle. I think we saw our first official PTO get signed today too. So PTO season is kind of on the horizon. That sounds like a listicle in the near future, in the next week or two, PTOs that maybe the Leafs could be involved in, because they've actually had a lot of success with PTOs over the last couple of years. Remember, was it, I think Max Pacioretty was a PTO with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge that he was going to sign a deal. Steven Lorentz was a PTO deal that turned out to work out pretty well. I think there was another one I'm trying to remember a couple of years ago that was a PTO signing that turned out to be a success. He ended up being with the team anyways when all said and done. But anyways, some news is starting to kind of come through. It sounds like some GMs are waking up from their off-season stupor, and things are starting to kind of move and shake. Still not a whole lot going on in Leafland quite yet. The Nick Robertson news was kind of the latest bit that we've heard. But if there is any news to tell you guys, we will certainly bring that to you as soon as we can here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. There was some former Maple Leaf news that kind of popped off over the weekend. Did you see this David Booth goal in the Australian International Hockey League? You remember David Booth, Dave?
It's just so funny because I'm like, I've heard that name before.
Yeah. He was a big time prospect when he was with the Florida Panthers. I do remember he's a big time player. He had a 30 goal year with Florida back in 08-09, 60 points, and it was David Booth, up and coming power forward. He spent a couple of years in Vancouver, and then he I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. He went from all of a sudden he was a 30-20 goal scorer to now he's in the minors, and now he's randomly with the Maple Leafs, and he also ended up with the Marlies for a little bit, but played 59 games, the Leafs, in the 2014-15 season. Not a very good year for the Maple Leafs. That was one of the crummy years.
He helped the Leafs get Austin Matthews. How about
Marner? That'd be the Marner year. He helped them get Mitch Marner.
It was the Marner year.
Yeah, Matthews would have been the following season.
Okay, he helped them get into a better spot to get Mitch Marner.
Yes, right. Which
almost got McDavid that year. So he did his best.
So close to getting McDavid that year. Imagine what would have been. But he, once upon a time, 59 games as a Maple Leaf, 13 points in that stretch. But he was making news over this weekend. I didn't realize that he was still playing professional hockey. He hasn't been in the NHL since 2018. Apparently, he's continued to play, though, overseas. He was in the KHL, played in Norway for a few seasons, in the Hungary. He was in Hungary, the Del 2 League in Germany. He's now playing in the Australian International Hockey League and is tearing it up, Dave. He has 25 goals, 25 assists for 50 points in just 11 games. He is torching this team. Torching this league right now. And he had a goal, and we're going to play it in just a second, a goal that was unbelievable. This was highlight of the night worthy stuff. It went viral. It was former Maple Leaf, former NHLer David Booth. Yeah, that David Booth. He's still playing hockey. Went off for an unbelievable goal. So let's watch this bad boy.
Keeps possession of the puck, but it's being picked off now by Erdigan. Erdigan trying to work his way through. The Brisbane defence will drop past to Booth. Booth will spin her up. Booth finds. He scores! No way! You cannot do that! That is going to be the goal of the season.
Look at the score. 8-6. We had an 8-6 score here. Unbelievable. Look at this, though. One move, little spinorama. Whoop.
What great defending. Oh, boy.
Beats the goal or beats the defender and roofs it over the stick and blocker of the goaltender. It's like, David Booth, where are these hands while you were trying to keep your NHL career alive, right?
I don't know what the defenders are trying to do there.
I don't know either. I really don't know. Like, obviously, it's not a very high level of professional hockey, and a guy who used to torch the NHL. I'm not sure what he's doing in the Australian League. I don't know if they're paying a whole lot of money in the Australian League, but it was kind of funny, and it went absolutely viral. And I was like, hey, former Maple Leaf goes viral. He's not the first one either this year to kind of go viral overseas. Do you remember who broke the KHL goal-scoring single-season record this year? Another former Maple Leaf. Remember who it was? Josh Levo. So Josh Levo and David Booth are stars overseas. Levo in the KHL and apparently in the Australian International Hockey League.
I'm just looking something up right now, and I really do hope somebody else can confirm this.
Mm-hmm.
But in the AIHL,
yes,
so the Austria, players are not paid.
Oh, really? So he's just doing this for funsies?
You're given like a per diem, for like when you go on the road.
So, like, what is this guy doing? I want to interview. I'm going to try and see if we can get a David Booth on the show. Because, like, what's going on here where David Booth is now playing hockey to a point? Like, he must have made enough money throughout his career to not have to play for per diem. Or you'd think that he just would do something else.
Like, obviously, he's not paying his own way around there. Like, teams are.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's considered like an amateur league. But I'm like, he's not an amateur. Guy played in the NHL. How is he allowed to play?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Like, oh, no, we're not dealing with this guy. Let's just.
He's played 530 games in the NHL. 530 games at the National Hockey League level. He scored over 120 goals at the National Hockey League level. And now he's playing in the Australian Professional League, torching it.
Like, I'm just looking. He's at a lot. Like, he has 50 points in 11 games played. You said the leading goal scorer has 63 points in 22 games. Like, if David Booth would have like,
you'd have 100. You'd have 100 points.
He'd have 100 points. He'd be like 40 points up on the next closest,
which he should be. Like, he should be.
At this rate, now I understand it.
Yeah, he should be. So that was kind of funny. That went viral over the last couple of days. Meant to bring it to the show's attention on Friday, but it was just a busy one. We ended up going 50 minutes, so we kind of had to just put it on the back burner till Monday's show. So yeah, that was kind of funny. David Booth still playing professional hockey, if you didn't know. And still got the mitts, still got some hands out there. Maybe he can stick on a PTO at some point. At 40 years old now, I think it's unlikely. But man, that was quite something for David Booth. All right, we'll take a break. Let's come back and let's get into today's subject. We're taking a look at the most efficient contracts in the NHL, where the Leafs ranked, who had the most, who had the worst efficient contract on the team. So we'll get to that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts puts you at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates fast. And the last thing you want, guys, is to have to find that right candidate and feel like you're in a bad spot because you needed that person yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs comes in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidate right now. So now you can speed up your hiring process with the $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockdown right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you, as we are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all summer long. And then we're back to 5 shows a week starting once training camp kicks off in September. Really quickly, actually, before we get to our contract efficiency rankings, just want to show off a gift that I was given from my roommate's father, actually, who, funny enough, apparently is a Montreal Canadiens fan. I won't hold that against him. But I guess he's like an avid buyer of like auctions. Like he just loves auctions and sports memorabilia and all that. And apparently these 3 specific items came in a big lot that he purchased. And he knew that I was a big Leafs guy. And he gave them to me as gifts. So I just want to quickly show the class, show the viewers and listeners the gifts that I was given, because I thought that they were pretty cool. Some 8x10s, some signed 8x10s. So we've got you know what? Actually, I probably got to take off the effect there. All right, there we go. So
I've seen that photo. That
Yep.
exact photo. I've seen that. I've always wanted to buy with those signatures.
Yep. So it's Wendell and Dougie having a little chit chat with each other sometime during the playoffs. It would have been. They got the playoff patches on their jerseys. Looks late 90s for sure.
So that'd be like 92, 93.
Yeah, or early 90s. Sorry, yeah,
93, 94, actually, probably.
Probably, yeah. Like when Dougie was, Dougie in 93 was probably in that era. But yeah, so that's one photo that was given to me and signed. It came with the COA and everything too, which is awesome. Nice. Yeah, so that's really cool. And then another one of just Dougie, just good old Doug Gilmour. Little killer action right here. Another little 8x10, same thing, which is pretty darn cool. And Rick Vive, another 8x10 photo signed by Rick Vive, former Maple Leaf captain, prior to Austin Matthews scoring 60 goals, 69 goals, I guess a couple of years ago. He broke it again, was the longtime goal-scoring leader, single-season goal-scoring leader for the Maple Leafs. So thought that those are 3 pretty cool things to get. So I just want to, say thanks to my roommate's father, I guess. Just appreciate the gifts there. Thought that people would enjoy seeing those photos. Definitely those who are of more vintage, who got to grow up watching Doug Gilmour and Rick Vive and Wendell Clark when they were the guys here in Toronto. Not anymore. Obviously, it's a whole new world here in Toronto, filled with a bunch of different players now. Clearly, we're sitting here 30 years after those photos were taken. But that leads us into our conversation that we're going to have today about the Maple Leafs contract efficiency. So you take a look at the contracts around the NHL and you kind of compare it to what the Maple Leafs have on their squad. And Dom Lucian, who does this every year, he kind of goes through and he ranks and counter ranks all of the teams and players and comes up with his efficiency ranking. So last year, the Toronto Maple Leafs ranked 8th in efficiency contract ranking. This year, Dave, they've ranked 15th, so middle of the pack in contract efficiency, which kind of surprised me. Because when I think of the Maple Leafs and the job that Brad Treliving has done this year specifically, I like the contracts that he has signed. There's not a lot of dead weight here when you look at the Maple Leafs contract situation. For them to rank middle of the pack kind of surprised me.
Well, especially like when you look at the chart that he puts out there, and some of the contracts that he's given bad grades to.
Well, let me put some context to
Yeah.
that, Dave. It is in comparison to everyone else's contract around the league. So is there one in particular that you're looking at?
Well, obviously the big one that got I would say the worst grading was, well, up front was William Nylander.
Yeah.
Like the value that he put on that contract and the contract grade, it wasn't, I don't think it was the worst grade. I think the camp grade was worse. But like William Nylander's contract got a pretty brutal grading.
So it was graded a C by Dom Decision. The model values him as a $10.6 million player. Obviously, he is making 11.5. So times that by 7 years, and you're looking at a total surplus of negative $6.6 million, according to Dom's model. And that was given a C rating. Now, he did go a little bit in depth about that one in particular, because I assume he had a feeling that people would see that. And he did kind of talk about it a little bit, pretty much just saying, William Nylander's deal, one that Leaf fans would gladly take, quote, but also one that doesn't compare us favorably to other franchise winger contracts. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was considered more of a poorer grade than you would think. I think when you look around the league and you look at what other top wingers are making, typically it's less than $11.5 million. We know this. William Nylander is now one of the highest paid wingers in the NHL. So it makes sense when you look at it in comparison to what traditional, top wingers in the league make. Yeah, the dollar figure at 11.5 times 7 is higher than what most star wingers are making around the NHL.
Yeah, and look, just looking at the teams that placed in even the top 10, can we guess what 3 of those teams have in common?
My guess is that they're all from no income tax states.
You would be correct on that one.
Classic. Yeah. Would that be Florida? Would that be Tampa? Would that be a Dallas, perhaps?
Oh, sorry, there's 4 teams.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Vegas thrown in there?
Yeah, throw Vegas in there.
There you go. Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, just the Nylander one, at first it caught my eye also. But when I read the piece and I saw why he gave it a poor grade, I guess in comparison to other top line wingers, 11.5 is a little steep to pay for what output Nylander has. But it's still a contract that I don't think a lot of Leaf fans are upset about Nylander making 11.5 over the next 7 years if he's going to continue to be a 40 to 50 goal scorer like he's been the last 3 years. 40, and last year 45. If he can continue to put that output, I don't think a lot of Leaf fans going to be crying about him making 11 plus per year.
I'm looking here, the Morgan Rielly one also got a pretty tough grading too, and we kind of knew that.
Yeah. I mean, the Rielly contract is bad. Let's call a spade a spade. I'm surprised that his model values it at $6.4 million. I'll be honest. That surprised me. I thought that it'd be a worse grade than a C.
I think there's still, if I guess for more, especially for Morgan Rielly's sake, I think with what his role was, especially when he signed it too. But I think they're seeing the Brandon Carlo effect. Maybe giving Morgan Rielly a bit more, puts him in a better spot than maybe pre Brandon Carlo. Because pre Brandon Carlo, it was a disaster.
Yeah,
post Brandon Carlo, it wasn't amazing, but we did see an improvement.
So the worst contract, I'm sure everyone could guess it, is David Kampf, who the model projects as an $800,000 player. Yeah, he's making 2.4 over the next 2 more years. So that's a total surplus of minus 3.2 million over the next 2 years, 7% positional value or positive value, which is no bueno, very very poor, and that was given a C minus rating. The only C minus though, so there's no D or F grades for the Maple Leafs camp. At 2.4 for the next 2 years gets a C minus, and that's considered the worst contract that's that they have in the organization. And I kind of look at that as a positive because for years this team was saddled up with some pretty garbage contracts that were like nearly unmovable, or guys that were like sitting on LTIR, like David Clarkson and Nathan Horton for the longest time, right? Patrick Marleau, they had to pay a first-round pick to get out of that deal. Dion Phaneuf's contract at some point was an anchor they had to move on from and give up some quality pieces to get rid of that. So, you look at the contracts now for Toronto. Are there some where it's like they're a little overpaid? Sure. But for the most part, I think the Maple Leafs have to be pretty happy with the work that Brad Treliving has done over the last couple of years when it comes to getting this team signed at a decent price.
Yeah, like I'm kind of looking at like the bottom feeder teams. Like there's contracts that have hit pretty poorly on the Richter scale.
Give us some names.
Well, let's look at Pierre Engvall, our favorite over here.
Oh,
the modded value 1.2 million, the contract 3 million. So it has a total surplus of 9.1 million. Over, I don't know how many years is left on that deal.
5 more years. Ooh. 5 more years on that deal. He got a D+ rating on that. Ryan Pulock, they gave a D rating as well on Ryan Pulock, interestingly enough.
I'm kind of surprised on that one. One that also, Steven Stamkos. Model value 4.4 million. Contract 8 million over the next 3 years, so a $10.8 million surplus.
Trying to see. So the team that has the least efficient that were ranked as the 32nd in the efficiency contract ratings was the Seattle Kraken. They have 5 players with a D or worse contract grade, and they have 2 players that are D-. Chandler Stevenson, who I remember at one point I wanted the Maple Leafs to go after, and then when I heard that the contract was 6.3 times 6, I was like, whoa, that is insane money.
We good.
Insane money to give up for Chandler Stevenson. I was like, yeah, if you can get him the 3.5-4 million range, sure. Well, last year didn't do a whole lot in Seattle. The model projects him as a $1.5 million player, minus $28.6 million in value for the Seattle Kraken. Him and Philip Grubauer both receiving D- as one of the worst players or worst contracts in the NHL. Montour got a D as well. So did Adam Larson, Ryan Lindgren. Both those players got
Alexiak has a bad one too.
Alexiak, has a C-. So the Kraken not in a good spot when it comes to their contract situations. But that's not great at all. UC Saros, that's surprising. Saros got a D- contract grade. 7/7 it was a decent number for UC Saros. But I guess last year was kind of
until he was like unable to stop a beach ball last year.
Yeah, last year was bad. But I could see him definitely bouncing back. What positive contracts do the Maple Leafs own? Some positive value, positive return on investment for Toronto. We'll get to those next in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without even touching a spreadsheet. That's the best thing. If you're not somebody that wants a complex system to figure out how you can save money or where your money is going, just go and download Monarch Money. I was able to link all my accounts and immediately spot some of the things that maybe I shouldn't really be paying for. Subscriptions I was barely even using. So canceling those alone helped me save some money towards some of my financial goals. And Monarch makes it simple to review finances with your partner. You can both see budgets, goals, and spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues with Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you as always. I forgot to put my.
I was gonna say, are we getting the curtain?
Bang! We're back.
Boom.
We're back. We're back. We're back. We are back in the man cave, the Leaf cave, if you will. The background is back to where it needs to be. Okay, so we went through some of the bad contracts that the Maple Leafs have, but there are also a number of positive valued contracts. So the baseline is 50%. If you're above 50%, you are giving surplus value to what your contract actually is. Dave, I feel so vindicated, because all summer long, I've had the take that I am of the belief that there are some unfair criticisms being hurled at Calle Jarnkrok, saying that he should not be on this team. There's no way that this team should move forward with Jarnkrok on their roster. They need to trade him. He's awful. Get him out of here. Well, Dave, according to Dom Lucian and the model, he actually gives you 53.3% positive value and is actually worth a little more than what his contract is. Calle Jarnkrok is a positive player. He's been rated a B- contract grade. I feel great about that. I feel really good to see this.
You should. You definitely should. And you were the first person I thought of when I saw that. So
Yeah.
Again, there are some people I understand that they expect more out of a Calle Jarnkrok based on what we have seen in past years, but also understand the guy's a $2.2 million player. He is not being paid like a William Nylander or even a Max Domi. Like he's not being paid. And funny enough, Max Domi was another negative value contract. If you go and check that out, but yeah, Calle Jarnkrok, one of those guys where I feel like, yeah, okay, the contract's, and I've constantly said it, like the contract's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just, if there was a way that you can,
it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty good. It's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. If somebody were to give you something, right, and you can take that money and put it maybe to. You're not going to take the two.
I don't know how many fourth liners you're going to find that are better than Jarnkrok. You can find a cheaper guy.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to save, you're not finding better fourth liners, but maybe you can find something similar or maybe a little, maybe not to the same level, but you're saving a bit of money. That's all it is. But the Leafs are not at that stage where they need to penny pinch. Penny pinching is not happening right now. No. It's can we find other players?
So the Maple Leafs were given 1A grade among all of their contracts. It was to John Tavares. And this is him coming off of an extension that we already knew was an absolute bargain. $4.4 million over the next 4 years for Tavares. I even think it's like 4.38 or something like that. But
when you're looking at
So 4.38 over the next 4 years. And it's an A grade with a 94.1% positive value. Over $15 million in total surplus is what they're anticipating here for Tavares. Yeah, like for me, it's gonna if he can play up to the 90% of the level that he was last season. Like, as long as a big drop off isn't coming for Tavares, if he can still go out there and give you 25 to 30 goals, 60 to 70 points, still be a factor on the power play, still be a net front guy, still be able to defend, when he gets those D zone draws in his own end, John Tavares is going to be considered a bargain and a steal for a couple of seasons here. So as long as he can continue to kind of play like that, 4.4 is an amazing deal. I mean, the model projects him at 8.3. And when you look around the NHL and you look and see what guys his age, the Brock Nelsons of the world, got in free agency, yeah, he was worth probably around 7 million, or what Stamkos got a year ago at 8 million. It's probably what he was worth, especially with the cap rising as much as it did. He wanted to stay in Toronto. He stuck around, and he took a discount, 4.38 for the next 4 seasons, to be a Maple Leaf for life, or for the rest of his playing career, most likely. And that gets an A contract grade, and I would even give it an A+. That was a home run signing for Brad Treliving.
To give you an idea, the Brock Nelson deal that was 7.5 over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The model value was $6 million per year, so that's a surplus of $4.4 million over those 3 years. So, like,
negative 4.4 million.
Sorry, negative. That's right. Yeah. So, like, that's the best way of kind of comparing like a Tavares deal. Now, we could go into next year and say that, okay, maybe the value is just right, considering what the Stamkos one. I'd like to see where Stamkos was last year when he signed that deal in Nashville, and kind of see, does that change, right, based on how his season went. So that's the other thing too. This is projecting what they did last year and what the rest of the deal could present in terms of value. I have no issues with the John Tavares contract. That was a huge home run. Like, it was the John Tavares contract followed by the Matthew Knies contract, which, funny enough, are 1-2 on this list here. And it's just like that was part of the reason why Leafs fans were so excited, because we talked how often about the Matthew Knies contract potentially being a tough one for this front office. That model value was 9.6 million. Obviously, the contract was 7.8 over 6 years.
But any idea that started with a 7 was going to be considered a good deal. It's not as much of a bargain as Tavares, obviously, but it's a good deal. And 2-3 years from now could be a bargain.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
it could go from a good deal to a great deal.
Yeah, much like Nylander's. Like, at first, it wasn't a bargain. It was a good deal. It was a decent deal. And then eventually he outperformed it and it became a bargain. And that's what you're hoping happens with Knies in years 4, 5, 6 of that contract. And it's very conceivable that it does happen once he gets into his prime. But for the Maple Leafs, for their 2 best contracts to be signed in the same summer, it was a good summer. So for that, but that said, seeing them drop from 8 to 15 after 2 of their better deals being signed this summer, also very curious for that. But the top 5 rounds out as such. Tavares, number 1. Knies gets a B+ contract grade. Bobby McMann, also a B+ contract grade. Austin Matthews, a B contract grade, with $4.2 million of surplus value compared to the model. And Nicolas Waugh, another newcomer to the Maple Leafs, giving surplus value comparative to his contract. That got a B as well. The model projecting him as a $3.8 million player, which means he's a surplus of $1.6 million over the duration of that contract. So he comes in as the 5th most efficient deal on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there it is. Your Leafs going into the 2024-25-26 season. We're still expecting a trade at some point, right? Like, I would expect one of these guys to still get dealt. Camp is kind of the one that everyone's circling as that player. So we'll see what ends up happening. But In terms of where the Maple Leafs are with their contract, Stolar's got an A- as well, by the way. Should note that. Stolar's, after his monster season, got an A-. Joseph Woll gets a B+. So the goaltending in pretty darn good shape, especially when it comes to contract value next year for the low price of what? Joseph Woll's contract extension kicks in this year, so it's not as cheap, but still, you're only paying $6.2 million for those two goalies combined. That's what Woll's projected model is alone. So just goes to show how much value you're getting from both of those players at the goalie position, a very important position moving forward. Any other final thoughts as you kind of take a peek at the contracts here in Toronto and how efficient or lack of efficiency there are with them?
Brad, get rid of your deficiencies. Make some moves.
Davy Camp. We got to get rid of Davy Camp. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And I suspect it probably will happen. I do expect it to happen at some point. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at _Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Wednesday. Got a fun show ready to go on Wednesday. It's that time of year again. The Athletic has dropped their front office survey. So every year, Dave and I go through it and we do the quiz. We do it ourselves live for the Locked On listeners. So we'll do that on Wednesday. And then got a fun show booked on Friday as well. 5 Leafs worthy of the top 100 for the Locked On NHL. We're doing a top 100 list this year for the network, and we're going to choose the 5 Leafs most worthy for that list. So that's what's coming up this week on the Locked On Leafs podcast. We'll check you guys in on Wednesday. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.